Curley. I'm with the IDPH AmeriCorps Mentoring Program, and we are proud to sponsor the low and no cost tools for visual communication training with LaDonna Coy today. This is the second part of the social media series, and the last one was showing up on social media, which is March 23rd, which I have emailed out the link to those of you that were registered. And if you did not get that, feel free to contact me after this webinar, and I will get that for you. And then we will have the link to this along with some resources and handouts that will go along with this training today, and I'll get those out to you as soon as the link is ready, so hopefully by tomorrow, if not early next week. So thank you so much, LaDonna, and feel free to get started.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it. Great. I'm glad we're here. I'm going to go ahead and pop up. Let's see. First, I just want to say I really applaud you for being here, because visual communications is one of these things that is fairly new, particularly in the work of prevention. We're used to words. We like to use words in our work. We do a lot of writing. And I think for us, this is a bit of a shift. And I'm going to start with giving you some of the science and the research behind the shift and why it's important. And then we'll look at some of the tools, and we'll get a little more familiar. I tried to pick the ones that are, I think, the most fun and interesting and easy to use. And I've only got one that's kind of an advanced tool, and I'll alert you to that so you'll know what it is when you see it. I think this is a really unique opportunity to communicate our message of help and hope and prevention to communities, and I'm excited about getting to do that. So Amanda, I think what we'll do is start with a poll. Everybody, do you remember that at the bottom of your screen, if you hover over it, there's a little menu that will pop up, and that will give you a chat box, and so you can use that as well. So the poll should be on the screen now. I'm curious what kinds of visual tools you might currently be using with social media. I know PowerPoint and Keynote are a couple of important ones that we do with presentations, and then we have, of course, a camera on most of our wireless phones and even our tablets. And then we have online visual platforms. I'm thinking of things like Canva and some of the others that we can use with the visuals, maybe SlideShare, those kind. And then photo apps and video apps, and you may have other things that I'm not even aware of that you're using. So I would appreciate it if you guys would let me know kind of where you are in that. If you're already doing that, awesome. And if you're not, what a great opportunity. So I'll pause for a minute. Don't hesitate to use the chat. Jump in, talk to each other, talk to me. We'll go back and forth with the chat throughout this hour together. So you want to show us our data? Excellent. Oh, good. So about half of us are using PowerPoint or Keynote, and the camera on the phone, 70%. Good. Online visual platforms, 60%. Photo apps, 20, visual app. Okay, good. So it looks like we've got a pretty good smattering of usage, which is great. You guys will have a lot to offer in the chat and throughout the workshop, so I'm really excited about that. If you're scratching your head and kind of wondering, what are we doing here and why is this important to the work of prevention, you're in the right place. So I'm excited to have you here. I'm curious, I know you're probably curious about why visual communication is important in digital communication. So let me share my screen just a little bit with you. And let's see. Nope, that's what we want right there. Take me a second to get that up here. Okay. So why is visual communication important for our digital posts? And I want to go over several things about that and why that's important, because we learn so much every time we get into the data and get into using the visuals. So the most important reason is, drum roll, data tells us it works. Let me give you a couple of the facts about the brain science, and then I'll give you some data and we'll demonstrate some of the tools and show you how it's working. So first off, research actually shows that it works. Our recall, people will recall about 10% of what we hear. About 3 days later, they've done the testing and we'll remember about 10% of what we hear. But if we take a little bit of text and put it with an image, people can recall 65% of what they heard 3 days ago. So they kind of do this test in this way. They have some longer tests, but that was the one I was most impressed with, so I pulled it up. So it kind of creates this stickiness factor when we can combine images and words on a screen, whether it's a PowerPoint screen or whether it's digital media in terms of social media. And then pictures will beat text every time, hands down. because of the way our brain works. I want to describe a little bit of the brain science from Dr. John Medina's work. He says that we see, when we're reading text, we're actually seeing little images. Every letter is a little image in our brain. Our mind actually sees little images of every character, and it very quickly puts those characters together and creates words. It's why we use sight words with our kids when they're first starting to learn to read. We do sight words to get that quicker in the brain. So we put it together, we read the phrase or the sentence, and then we make meaning out of it. And all of that happens like so fast in our mind. We talked a little bit about that last time. So what happens is when you have a lot of text reading, particularly on a screen, your brain gets really tired and it gets overloaded, kind of like Atlas pushing the boulder up the mountain every day. It's kind of how it feels sometimes. So we want to make sure that we keep the cognitive load where people can actually function. And what that basically means is the cognitive load is the part of your brain that's your working memory, because it's working to attach what you're seeing to something you already know, pulling that in together and making sense of things. And we want that cognitive load to work for us rather than against us. We don't want to overload. Okay? And then finally, vision, according to the brain science, trumps all of the other senses. We talked a little bit about this last time, I think, when we mentioned that your vision is the primary sense for most of us. About 75% of us actually rely on vision primarily. Not that we don't use our other senses, but our vision is our big sense to use. And Medina's work is really good. In your handout, I gave you sources for everything I'm going to tell you today in terms of the data and the research. So you can go look if you want, which I like to go look usually when I'm doing this. So there are some really good reasons to use the visual content. We can recall better, it reduces our cognitive load, and our vision trumps all of our other senses. That's our three big ones, if we were going to just list three. But there's some more. When we get into the research about how social media works, we're actually seeing that tweets that have images receive 150% more retweets than those without. So you get a lot more bang for the buck when you, when you use a tweet that has an image with it. The same, well, not the same. There's a little bit different data for Facebook, but on Twitter in particular, you'll get a much better return if you have an image with your tweet. The next thing is this notion of images in articles. When we write for the web or we write an article for people, they're much more likely to read it or scan through it more thoroughly if we have images. And the rule of thumb is about 75 to 100 words, use an image. The next 75 or 100 words, use an image, and try to keep the concepts concise so that you're able to do that throughout your post. So you could read something that looks a little bit like this, where you have a paragraph, there's some bold text to guide your eye down the page, and then there's some imagery. Or we could read something like this. And most of the time, if this is what comes up on the web, we don't read it. You've probably been to websites where you pop on and you're looking for something, you're going through your search features, and you land on a page and it's text like this. And tell me in the chat, but I'm guessing that this probably isn't very appealing to you in terms of having to sit and scroll through a very long page of just text. So it gets to be a really tiring thing, and it's hard on your mind to do that much. The other thing is when we have images, particularly on Facebook in this particular piece of data, words don't work nearly as well as images. So here we have a little post, very short. You know, you have the see more option where we can click and see more. But that post is most likely going to be overlooked by most people. If you'll post with an image, you actually have an opportunity then to catch people's attention. So images work really well to do that. And on Facebook, posts that have images are about 2.3 or nearly 2.5 times more engaging than posts without images. So we want to make sure when we're posting in social media that we have some sort of a relevant image or an image that will surprise or be novel in the posting. Okay, now I'll give you a little bit. I know that most of you, and you can tell me in the chat if this is true, you have a smartphone and you probably take pictures. You told me in the other poll that you take pictures, so I'm guessing that you do. Most of us, according to the data, 54% of us are creators from the web. So we take our own pictures, we take our own videos, we mash things together, we create something new and different, and that makes us what is deemed a creator on the web. The rest of us, 47% actually, a little less, are curators. And if you're not familiar with the term, a curator is someone who goes out on the web and finds the best stuff they can find that's really good, and they post that. So they're curating the web. They're not actually creating new content. They're actually curating the web, both of which are very important. And usually when people do one, they do the other to a lesser or greater degree. So being a creator or a curator online is really important. A lot of the things that we can find in prevention may not even come from a prevention source, but it's a prevention message. You can pull those in and utilize them in your social media. So those are two of the big roles in social media when you're using imagery. And then I think the other is video. And video is expected to be about 80% of the internet traffic by 2019. So in 2 years, video will be the primary driver of traffic online, 80%, which is extraordinary. 4 times as many consumers would rather watch a video about a product than read about it. So a lot more people would rather see a little video about it than read. And then finally, using the word video in your subject line, even in email, will boost your open rates by almost 20%. So, and your click-through rates by about 65%. So when people expect a video there, they'll often go and see that. Now we're talking short videos, 3 minutes or less in most cases, something very short and brief that people could actually see and scan and go through online. And now we're seeing live video, either through Periscope or through Facebook Live. It is becoming a pretty big deal. It is, most people on Facebook will spend about 3 times more time watching live video than they will recorded video, which I think is kind of interesting. Plus, Facebook's algorithm will pop that up a little more, so the people that follow you are more likely to see a little alert that says, you know, your prevention group is online now, and people will click over and get into. You've probably seen it in your own Facebook feed popping up that way. And 51%, just over half of all videos are being played on mobile devices. So it's telling us a lot about where people are with their tablets and their smartphones in terms of watching video. So I'm curious. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick so I can come back to the chat. Okay. Did anything in that data surprise or delight or even distress you when it comes to your work and thinking about those tools in the work that you do? So if you would pop over in the chat and tell me a little bit about that. Did anything surprise you or delight you or distress you about any of that data? I'll just pause for a minute and let you have a chance to type in the chat. If you haven't seen it yet, if you'll hover at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says chat. If you click on that, it'll open the chat window to the right of the main window here on the screen. So let's see if we've got any comments. Something that surprised, delighted, or perhaps distressed you in the data. Here we go. It distresses me because I'm not using visuals enough. Oh, I hear you, Jody. Yeah. It made a lot of what I have done seem futile. Oh, please don't feel that way, Julie. It isn't futile, I promise. I'm guessing if you're like me, there's a lot of resources that you have that you just haven't gone visual with yet. You've done a lot of work. Now it's this whole conversion or translation into the visual arena. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. It is going to be in the future a big part of the work of prevention. It is fast becoming that now. If we're going to communicate at the levels that we're seeing done in the world, we're going to have to up our skills a little bit, you know. Yeah, video driving 80% of the traffic. Yeah, I agree with you. That is surprising and distressing. You know, I agree. It's a little of both, isn't it? Crazy, crazy. Okay. So be sure and leave your questions if you have them, if they pop up in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will come back to those. We're going to stop several times throughout. We'll chat a bit and we'll use the Q&A. So if we are going to post on social media, it makes sense that we consider the current science and the social tools and the research-based actions of our own time. You know, we've been using tools that we've had for a long time, and now the new tools have come along. We've got a whole new skill set to try to master to some degree. What I usually tell folks is that I'm certainly not asking you to learn digital communications a mile deep. you've got prevention work a mile deep. What you need is just 6 inches of video and communications work to make a huge difference in the communications that you're able to do. So don't hesitate. I'm not actually asking you to be a tech expert. I'm not doing any of that. I'm asking you to look at the tools, find one that appeals to you, and just practice with it. Just use it. And I'll give you some other tips about that as we go. These tools will help us tell our community stories, our success stories, even some of our failures. If we choose to talk about them, we can do that through video and imagery in ways that will help people learn. And, you know, we often learn best by some of the biggest boo-boos we make. So it captures people's attention and it helps us in our community. So if you don't hear anything else I say today, hear this. Our challenge is to shift our practices from primarily text-based information, text-based work, into this whole notion of using photos and videos to communicate the prevention message. Because if we're going to be successful in this environment, we need to master these skills in varying degrees, but we certainly need to be using them in a visual way. So that's my plug for what we do today. So I want to actually share with you now a video, an image that we had from last time that I want to follow up with. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, what am I going to go back to? I was going to go back to Keynote. Let me see if I can get it. There it is. Sometimes it leaves me. So we'll share the screen. Oh, there we go. Last time we talked about mobile and how big mobile has gotten. And there's a ton of data around mobile. But I think some of the most important things about it is that it has fundamentally changed communications. And our young people coming up are using it very differently than what we probably use it or how we think about it. Because for them, it is as common as a telephone was to us or a typewriter was to us. These tools are just as common to these young people. And they use them in a different way than we do. And you probably have a ton of stories about how that has happened in your world, I'm sure. Remember, this little jewel is far more than a phone, right? We came up last time with a ton of things that the smartphone does for us that's more than just talking on the phone. We call it a smartphone, but my goodness gracious, it does so much more than that, right? From online banking to taking pictures at a community event or shopping, or, you know, some of us even, I do Amazon TV, so sometimes I'll even do Amazon on my phone when I'm traveling if I've got Wi-Fi. And it's a GPS in my truck. I have a little thing that sits up on the dash and I clip my phone in it and I use the GPS in my truck. So there's a ton of things that we do with it. I don't have cable at my house, so I track the weather with mine. That's how I pay attention to the weather. So there's a lot of things that we do with our phones, our, so to speak, phones, our smartphones, that is not talking. In fact, I'm guessing that we do a lot of other things on our phone primarily and talking a lot less than what one would think in terms of calling it a phone. And this is important because there are some things that have shifted. And I think in a big sense, some of you will remember days where you had to go to the publishing house to get something published. And they did all the artwork for you and they pulled in everything and they got all of the approvals to use the visual imagery and they did all that work for you. Well, now we are creators. We create content from our mobile devices, our desktops, all of the different ways that we have to access the web. We can create content. And moreover, now we can distribute that content. We don't have to rely on a gatekeeper to take that content and publish it for us. We can do it that way, but we don't have to do it that way. We can actually distribute through our own networks. And then, of course, our device has storage. I don't know about you, but I can get on the iCloud in my mobile device, so I can actually get online and see documents or edit documents and work with those from my my smartphone. And then we can track the results of what we're doing in terms of social media in live, real time. And that's new for us, newer rather than older, because I can remember the times when it would be a few weeks, maybe even a month or more before we got the report on how we did. That evaluation report might not come for quite some time. Now you can know in real time if something's working or if it isn't, if you're getting engagement or if you're not. So those 4 things are huge in terms of us using these tools in ways that are what's considered democratized. We actually democratize the data and the tools so that we can use them in a whole new way that we haven't had access to before. So we have to think differently about it. According to the Pew Internet and American Life Project, about 95% of Americans have some sort of a cell phone, okay? So about 95%, 95 out of 100 will have some kind of cell phone. That means it's a smartphone, but some kind of a mobile device. And 77%, which surprised me that it was this deep. I shouldn't be surprised probably, but I was, that 77% actually have smartphones. So we still got a little crossover there. We still have some of the old cellular phones that we work with, but the smartphone is becoming more and more dominant. So more and more people are carrying them. More and more people are using them instead of a computer. There are homes and families in my own area that don't have a home computer anymore. They use their smartphone device, their mobile device, for a computing device. And that's particularly true in a lot of minority communities. You know, computers are expensive. And a lot of us, I know out here in the rural areas where I live, it makes a whole lot more sense to have the mobile instead of going to the expense of an extra computer and putting things in place, when really you're going to do most of what you're going to do on your mobile device. So we're seeing a huge shift in that. And then, of course, we have the whole notion of Facebook Live, or any of the live video that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. We're going to dive a little bit deeper in that. I want to shift to imagery, and that's not where I wanted to go. Let me back up. There we go. Hang on. Let me stop sharing for a sec. And we are going to go to the web. So I'm going to share a little bit different screen here. Share my screen. And that's going to be big, isn't it? Love that. I think it's the green tab that'll bring it up. There we go. Full screen. I wanted to talk a little bit about 4 really good sources for imagery. If you're going to do visual communications, you're going to want to go out and get the best visuals that you can to do the work you do, or you can take your own. Probably both, to be honest. And one of those is Creative Commons. There are Creative Commons images up, and I'm going to show you some places you can go get those real easy. You can also get them at Creative Commons in this particular website. If you're not familiar with Creative Commons, let me just assume that you may not be, because it's generally speaking, when I'm with a group, this is what I hear. There'll be about 4 or 5 in the room that are, and everybody else pretty much isn't. And it is very powerful, and I think it's important for us to talk about in a couple of ways. One, visual images that are Creative Commons you can use without having to call anyone to ask for permission. You just follow the license. And I want to show you a little bit. Let me try use and remix, how simple this is to use and how fun it is to use. Let's see, here's where you can search. If you just click on use and remix, search the Commons for images, and it will bring you the Creative Commons images with the tags on it that you're searching for. So I think that's one important thing. Let's now look at, I was going to show you the license. There it is, licensing. There are easy ways to do the licensing, and I'm going to give you a couple of resources you can go and learn more about it, but I'll give you a little bit of flavor today. You want to choose what you're going to do, and then you'll choose it, you'll take the original information, and then you'll get the license. So here's how it works. I'm going to get you started. You'll go to a page, you'll look at these license features. Are you going to allow, if you're going to take your own picture, you're going to allow it to be shared in a particular way. So you can say yes or no. If you want it, can it be adapted? Do you want them to leave it as it is, or can they do adaptations to the imagery or the work that you have? You choose yes or no. I'll say yes in this case. Allow commercial use of your work. You may not want to do that. You may not want them to be able to use, big companies to come along and scoop up something that you've created to use for that. And what that does is generate for you a license. And it says right now it's attribution, which means you have to give citation for the source that you used, and non-commercial. So it's by the international. So I can click on that, and then I get this wonderful little page when it comes up. Now, you get your license right here. And what I do is I go up and I click on the very top. I take that link and I put that in my item, whatever that is, a photo. I put it in the information part of the photo, put it in there somewhere so people know what that is. So I get kind of excited thinking about all that's possible with Creative Commons. It's often called copyleft because in normal copyright, when you produce anything, it's straight up copyrighted. When anyone produces anything, it is the normal copyright. No one can use it without your permission. And with Creative Commons, particularly in the work of prevention, we want people to use the things we create. And so we can put a license on that that allows them to use it. And that's what we're talking about here with images. So we can get an image that actually works for us. We just follow the license. If it says attribution, we can use it. All we have to do is give a citation of that image. If it says non-commercial, we can use it as long as we're not using it commercially. So there's a lot of ways to go about this, and I think it's a really, really positive thing for us. Amanda, I'm going to ask you if there's anything in the queue for questions at this point before I go on.
I don't see anything.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good. Okay, in the handout that you'll get, you're going to have a couple of links to some YouTube videos that describe Creative Commons and explains how it works. They are some of the best I have seen in terms of getting what this is and how you would use it in terms of your own imagery or your own products, and then also how you can use others. So it's really a neat thing to have. Let me see if I can make that one. Let's go. The next one is you're often looking for images, right? You want some images that may communicate your message. And one of the best places, I love this site, I use it a lot. May take it a minute to load through Zoom because this is heavy, high resolution photos. They require no license whatsoever. You don't have to pay anything. They're not licensed or royalty fees with them. You can use these. You don't even have to cite them. I usually do, but you don't have to cite them. And so you'll take in the search window, you'll type in your search term, and then you'll get the images that fit that on unsplash.com. I'm going to cursor up a little bit. I hope I don't make you dizzy. So you can see some that just come up on the page, and you can see these are just beautiful images. Depends on what you're looking for. There's a lot in here on social media. There's a lot in here on naturescapes and the kind of things that you might use with some of the visual communications like on Canva, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute. So you get the sense of how the photos work. And I think they're some of the best out there. It's one of my favorite places to go. And like I say, just create an account and get started with Unsplash. It's really, really a good site. Another place we go for visuals, again, no license, no fees, no royalties. You can use these without any problem at all. Just type in your search term. I'm going to cursor up just a little bit. You can see a little bit of what kinds of things you can find in this space. It is amazing. They do a really good job of having a good variety of images that you can use. So this is a really good one. Same deal, no fees with it. And then I want to show you one more. It's called Pixabay, P-I-X-A-B-A-Y. And this one, it actually, I'll click on an image here. Same thing, you'll have a lot of images to pick from. Let's take this ocean scene. We'll pull it up. Go ahead, come on. May take it a second. There's actually an app for this as well. You notice on the screen for both the iOS and the citation for, it may not let me go there. Come on. Well, I'm not wanting to let me. It would generally have a license on it. For some reason, I'm not logged in here, so it may not. So the idea is you'll get it. And you'll notice here what it says in the center of the screen. It actually tell you what I was going to show you. The images and the videos on Pixabay. Oops, something went wrong. Yes, it did. It actually did. These are all under Creative Commons copyright. You'll notice here on the screen. Creative Commons copyright. You can download, modify, distribute, and use them royalty-free for anything you like, even in commercial applications. Attribution's not required. Like I said, I usually give attribution for a couple of reasons, but it's a really great site for that. So I've given you Creative Commons, Unsplash, StockSnap.io, and Pixabay as our 4 primaries. I want to talk a little bit about how you use them effectively, because I learned this the hard way, and I'll share with you so you don't have to learn the same way. The main thing is to create an account on these pages. because when you create an account, you can have a library here, and it makes tracking and reusing and sharing what you find with other people a whole lot easier. So if you would, make your account, and then you can come back as you need to. Another thing that I do when I download an image is I right-click on it. I work on a Mac, but the same is true for the PC. You can right-click, and on the information part of the image, you can put a link back, direct link back to that image. And I find that that's really helpful to me, is being able to put that in there so that I have it in case I want to share it later. So I kind of protect myself in a couple ways. And then you can even, I know on the Mac, and I honestly can't tell you about a PC, I'd have to ask one of you if you know, if you can tag, or I know you can put keywords in, but I don't know that you can tag otherwise on the ones that you find. So, you know, you change its name so that you can search it and tag it. So when you go on your computer and you search, you can actually find it, which is really nice to have. So let me pause. I want to take the screen share off if I can get it to go off. Let's see. See if I can get it back. There it is. I'll stop for a second. Let's see. Any questions or any thoughts or other sites that you may use that you could share with the group? Other image sites or video sites. And most of these have video as well as still shots. Anybody have a thought about that in your one that you use? Perhaps you may even be purchasing them. I did that for probably 6 or 7 years. I built up a pretty good library of stuff that I found. Shutterstock is one of my favorites, and iStock, so I can get some pretty good images there. I also keep a Creative Commons folder that I put some that I find that are Creative Commons in a specific folder on my computer. So managing those becomes really important if you're going to share them or reuse them. I don't see any in the window, so I think we're probably going to go ahead. So what do you do if you download one of these really great images, and it's absolutely huge, because it will be. These are high-resolution images. It's going to be big. What if it's bigger than you want it to be for your purposes? Well, there's this handy little site. Let me show you that. A handy little site. I'll share the screen, and let me go to... It's ugly. I won't lie to you. It's an ugly site, but it is a good site. And I want to cursor down just a little bit to this resize image window. So you can choose a file on your computer. I'll just go ahead and go to, let me go to Dropbox and get one. You can see how I line mine up. I'll just take a billboard and we'll open it. Okay, so now I have loaded a file, and now I can make it smaller by pixels. So I could actually choose 100 pixels by 100 pixel square. I can choose that, or I can go by percentage. Like if I want it 25% smaller, I can do that, or I can actually click the box and put in a custom size. So if you know the size you need, you can put that in this box. Okay. And then you choose good, better, or best in terms of how you want it to resize. I'm going to say, let's go with 350. How about that? And you can choose grayscale or sepia if you actually want to change it, but I won't this time. And it'll take it, it'll churn a little bit, and it'll resize that image for you so that you don't have to do that in other ways. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, but I don't know about you, but I'm not one to use some of the Photoshop kinds of stuff. It's not a skill that I built yet. And until I get that mastered, I really find these kind of things really helpful to do, to be able to resize them. And I hope it doesn't take forever. We're running this through 3 things right now, so we'll see if this actually works. Wait just a second. It's a really handy little tool. It'll bring up an image that'll be a lot smaller, and we can then download that to our computer and use it in a smaller size. I'm not sure if it's going to crank away at that or not. Come on. It's saying to me, be patient if the original picture is large. So I guess I need to be patient. We'll give it just a little bit at a time. May even come back to it. Okay. And while we're waiting, I will tell you that even PowerPoint and Keynote can be handy to create images depending on what size you want or need. And I don't know, I can put images into PowerPoint and when I get them finished, I will export them as JPG file, and then I have them, each one of the slides will be an image, and I can save them that way and use them in that fashion. So it's a really helpful way to be able to do that. When you're doing simple things, they really are helpful for that. Now, some of you may use things like, oh, I see a question. Hang on. Let's see here. Other image sites I have used previously. Oh, Morguefile and PicJumbo. Thank you, Amanda. That's good. Morguefile is a good one, and PicJumbo. So don't hesitate to use those, as well as the ones that I've told you about. I think both of those are actually free sites, so you may want to comment, Amanda, whether that's right or not. The other thing I would say about this is you may want to capture a screen capture from time to time. And to do that, you're probably using something like Snagit, S-N-A-G-I-T, Snagit, or if you're on a Mac, you may use Snapz Pro, or another really good tool for that. And you just do a little screen capture. Maybe there's just a little part of the screen you need to show. I did that a lot when I was at the center because we did a lot of training with staff. And when we do training, technical training, it helps to be able to see what you're training in. So when people go back to do it at their desks, they have that clearly in their heads. And so Snagit or Snapz Pro are both really good tools to use. Amanda says other image sites, yeah, they're free and you don't have to attribute the image. So that's awesome, Amanda. Thank you. It doesn't look like it's going to churn for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and go on, and we will come back to that. We're ready for poll number 2, I think, before I get into the next piece, because I'm going to show you a really fun way a shortcut to doing some of this. So let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. Do you currently use a little site called Canva? Anybody? Yes, no, not yet. Canva, CANVA.com. Some of you may be familiar with Canva. Oh, it finally came up. Just took it a little while today. Okay, I'll wait on the poll. Go ahead and vote. Canva.com. I'm going to show you just a little bit about Canva here in a second. Yay. Yeah. Oh, yes. Good. More than half of the group. Awesome. 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 I'm glad to hear that. I'm going to show you a little bit about it. Some of you who are already using it, if you've got tips and stuff, please put them in the chat, because we can always use shortcuts and tools for that. Now I'm going to step back for a second and go back to shrink picture. You can see on the screen now that our big image of Times Square on the billboards is up. This is so much smaller than the other one. This is a very tiny one. Now you can get your picture, you click your picture, it'll download, and then if you want it removed, you can remove it. And so I'll go ahead and remove it so it's not on there anymore. Okay, so there you go. That is shrink picture. So it's a handy tool to know about and be able to use. Okay, let's talk Canva. When we're talking about visual communications, Canva has revolutionized the way we do this. You guys probably remember when Facebook and Twitter came out with the headers on their pages, and so you had not only your image, your profile image, but you had this header in the background. And the one at Facebook was different than the one that was at Twitter, which was different than, so they're all different sizes, and it was really a pain to do. But if you go to Canva, you can actually, I'll go ahead and click on it, you can see all the different ways you can use this. So social media, presentations, posters, a Facebook post, a blog graphic, an ad, maybe it's a Twitter post or a Facebook app, or there's just all kinds of ways to use it. You can do documents here. You can do slides, like your PowerPoint slides, only do them through Canva. You can do ebooks. There's just a ton of stuff to do here. So I thought what I would do is just kind of let you take a look at these and know that when you go there, it's free. The only time that you have to pay for anything is if you use something off of the Canva site. What's nice is, I'm just going to choose one of these real quick. Let's do a Facebook post. It'll open up. It'll bring it up. I'm going to close a few windows that may help us a little bit here, because I have my whole screen open. Okay, now then that's a little better. So on Canva, we're going to do a little post. If I want to, without having to pay for their images, I can load my own. And this is my little library of my own stuff here. So I can take an image, pull it over into the slot. You can see the white outline so you know how big. Of course, it's going to be too small to fit, so I'm going to drag it bigger. And so it fits the window, and then I can scoot it over just a little bit. And now I can go in with the text and add text to it. So we'll add text. I'm not going to type it in. I'm just going to show you how it works for those who may not know in our group. So we can add it. If I want to, I can change. We'll change the font. I can change the size. Let's say I want it bigger. I can make it one line. So there's a lot. I can change the color. We'll make it blue just for fun. There's a lot that you can do with that. So this is a way that you can create some visual communications pieces. One of the favorite things that a lot of people are using this for is to get a good quote and a good image and mash those up in this software so you can actually create a post on Facebook that is an image with a quotation on it. I like to add, when I do this, I like to take and add my business name down at the bottom or a web link at the bottom. So that people can find my work. If they're like what I've said and they think, they might like to use it, they can actually contact me, which is really nice to have. So that's kind of Canva in a nutshell. I didn't go through everything, of course, but that gives you an idea of how to use it. I'm going to switch now to the phone. I'm going to show you some apps. So let me stop sharing for a sec. Okay. I'm going to put that one down. I think we're done with that. Now then, let's see if it's all still working. Let's hope it is. I'm going to do my best for this to work. Follow the instructions. I did that. I see a question, so I'm going to pop over and do that real quick too. How do you get the Canva images to Instagram? Oh, that's a great question. Once you've finished saving it, when you get through with your design, you go over and you just make one click and it will, you can choose where to share it, or you can download it and then put it over on Instagram. I tend to like to download it because I keep a folder with them in it that I do, and then I have them all in one place. I know they're online always, but it's nice to have them. So I just click save and then either share directly to Instagram, or I can download it and share it to Instagram from my desktop. So let me double check that we're mirroring here. Airplane mirroring. Making sure it's on. There we go. That should do it. So what I thought I would do is show you some image tools on a mobile device. And I find these really helpful and useful. I've got two that are my absolute favorites. There are many, and you can see I have a number of them on here. Canva even has a mobile version you can see on the screen. But I want to show you PicStitch. This is a really interesting little photo app. Let's see if it'll come out. Come on, there we go. That you can, the pictures you take on your phone are accessible into PicStitch. You just have to give it permission to go get them. And then you can choose, I'll choose one, and then I can go into my photos and I will pick, this one has 4 little pockets, so I will pick 4 items. And when I go back, you can see them at the bottom of the screen. So now all I have to do is drag them into the window, and I can create a whole new piece. I was out in San Diego not long ago, and we were having a conversation about boundaries. So as I was taking my walk in the evening, I was noticing the boundaries and how the tree actually comes right up to the boundary, and the boundary stops the tree's root growth. And now, how there were boundaries everywhere when I started paying attention to them. So once you do this part, you just simply export it. So, oh, sorry about that, guys. I'm using the free version, by the way. If you hadn't noticed, I get the games. So you'll have to tolerate them for a second. It's worth it for freebies. So there we go. Now it's going to ask me where I want to save it to. So here is another a way that you can do this. You can save it right to Instagram. You can see on the screen, to Facebook, to Dropbox, to Pinterest, wherever you want to save it. I usually save them to my photo album, and then I can go in with my photo album and I'm finished with that. I mean, I can actually share it for any number of places that I want to share it. So that's one tool. The other thing that you can do with this, let's see if I can go back for a second. Let me see if I can. I might need to start a new one. Let me do this. I'll just pick one. Yes. And I'm going to go in and pick some photos. And one of them is going to be a video this time. So I want to put in, let's do the webinar again. I'll put in a couple. Okay, I'm done with that. And now I'm going to go and find a video. Let's see if I can get one real quick. Video. Recently added. I think this is the one I want. Oh, shoot. That's right. Let me take one of them off. Okay, done. Now what I have on the bottom of my screen is a little piece with the boundary. And then I have another little piece that has the boundary. And I can actually push that up a little so we can actually get to the boundary if we want to show it. Now I'm going to put a video into that little spot. And I'm going to try, I don't know that you'll be able to hear this, but I'm going to go ahead and play the video so you can actually, oh, that was a 2-second one, so it didn't do a whole lot. The pup is actually chewing on my brother-in-law's pant leg, so it was really kind of fun. So you can put videos in here. So if you're at an event in your community and you take a little bit of video and some pictures, candids with the group, you can pop those into your pick stitch and create one that you can then share on Facebook or other places, including video. So it's a really nice piece to have. The other one is called Color Splash. And I like this one because I can load a photo in. Let me see. It's in the webinar file. I can pull in an image. This was my image for my holiday picture this year. It takes in a color image, and then you have the black and white saturation. And now I can hit on the color button, and I can begin to bring out just part of this image, just the part that I want. And I'm actually using a stylus right now to do this, and I'll try to do it quick, so I may not get it just perfect, but the notion is to do this. So now I have an image that has something that pops out as being in color. I could do the little bird if I wanted to do the bird. So you have a number of things that you can do with it. What I like doing it for is a crowd, or if I have a guest of honor at an event, I'll take some pictures, particularly if I have a really colorful background, and then I can mute that into black and white, and that person on my stage, then I will put in full color on the image. And it's really a fun and interesting way to do the work in terms of getting something novel and surprising, because we know the brain loves what's novel and surprising. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off of that. It's a great little tool. I totally love it. I use it a lot, and I hope that you'll enjoy using it as well. Now, let me look at the chat real quick. Yeah, okay, Carol, good. Any questions about that? Or do you have apps that you use with pictures or video that work really well for you? Because we're going to do a couple of video ones here in a second. I'm just going to tell you about them. But anybody have any comments about video or applications that use images besides Instagram, which actually has a whole set of filters and a number of things that you can do on Instagram with your images as well. So I don't know that they do like pick stitch, but I could be wrong about that actually. Maybe. Okay. Not seeing a comment or two. So when you're doing all this visual stuff, you've got your photos, you've got your video, you're creating, and now you want to post it online. Are you going to have to go in real time and post it or not? So let's go ahead and do a poll again. This will be poll number 3, Amanda. We're going to talk about how we schedule posts, or do we just get on and post them? So are you currently scheduling your social media posts, or just hopping online and posting them in real time? And I've done both, and it kind of depends on my schedule what I find useful and helpful. But I would actually love to hear what you think about the scheduling and the real time. Okay, everybody vote. Scheduling or real time? Amanda, share. There we go. A lot of you are scheduling. That's awesome. Tell me in the chat what tool you use for scheduling. I would really appreciate that. Real time is cool. You can do that too. But I'm really curious about what tools people are using for that, because I'm going to share a couple with you here in a second. Hootsuite. Yeah, I'm not going to show that one, but that's one of the good ones. I actually Had a Hootsuite account for a long time. Facebook, okay. So you can actually schedule on Facebook. There you go. Very good. Thank you, Amanda. My actual favorite tool is one called Buffer, and I will bring it up here. Let me get, it's always something, isn't it? Not that one, not that one. Well, where'd it go? I lied. I can't show you that one, can I? So Buffer is my favorite. I'll just go ahead and tell you about it. Buffer is a way that you can schedule these things and not have to go in real time. So a lot of times what I will do is on the weekends, and some of you are obviously doing it as well, you'll go in and you'll schedule for several days or maybe even a week at a time, and then those things will automatically post. And Buffer's kind of nice because it'll come back and tell me, okay, your queue is empty, you need to queue up some more things in your deal. And I set the times, I let them go, and then it lets me know when the queue is empty. So I really love Buffer for that reason. In the chat, what I would love for you to tell me is, where are you seeing some really interesting uses of images or video? Doesn't have to even be prevention. Just what are you finding interesting and seeing interesting? Because a lot of times what we find is we get inspired by what someone else has done online. And I love it when we find those examples of places like that. You could tell us a little bit about it. If you have a link, share it. That's perfectly fine. If not, just kind of describe it in the chat window. Tell me a little bit about that. And then we're going to go into a couple of video things, and then we'll be all done. We're almost there. So I will watch the chat window for your comments because I would love to know what you use for that. I want to take you to a site. It's called Animoto, and some of you may use Animoto. I don't know, but we will try it. Let me get it back up here. Come on. Well, for some reason, it isn't letting me do that. Bear with me a sec. Let me see if I can get it this way. There we go. Facebook, I will go to Animoto. Okay. It's a really nice little app. This will be my desktop I will share with you. Animoto is an easy to use video site. You can take your still shots, put them together. It has music that's already approved, and you can actually very quickly put up a real interesting little video based on an event that you have in a community or something that's going on with prevention. Maybe you have you're showing up at the Capitol to make a stand on some issue, or perhaps there's a health fair in your community or some other kind of thing that's going on in the coalition meeting, that coalition event that you want to shout out. Animoto is a great way to do that. Take a few pictures. You can get the free version for, I think it's 30-second videos, or you can pay, it's $8 to, I think the most expensive one is $34 a month to use. Lowest one is $8. So you have an opportunity then to take still shots and put them into video. It will also take video. If you have a short video clip you want to include, you can do that as well. So Animoto is a great piece. There's one other one that I will share with you. See if I can get Filmic Pro to come up. This is an advanced piece, and I want to share it with you because some of you will want some advanced video stuff, and this is a really good one. Let me see if I can. Sharing is paused. Bring your window share to the front. Okay, resume. Here we go. Resume. I hope it's going to come. Come on. Seems to be a little slow responding today. Filmic Pro it's $14.99 to buy the app, so it's not cheap. It's $14.99 to buy it, but it allows you to have a lot more control. So you can, for example, if you're shooting against big light, you can flip that around so that the person actually shows up and the light is diminished. So there are ways to adjust the screen with just a little tap that allows you to do that. Okay. Let's do our last poll, Amanda. I'm going to stop sharing, and let's do our last poll. Talk a little bit about live video. Amanda? Yeah. Are you already capturing video and posting it socially? So are you already doing that? Yes, no, not yet. So it's some, about almost 20%. And then there's some no's and then some not yet's. That implies to me that you would like to. So that's good. Video is handy. Your cell phone or your smartphone will already capture video. So you can do that, or you can use one of these apps that actually does a little bit more with that. So I'm excited about that. What about live video? You know, Facebook Live, has anyone, is there another poll, Amanda? It seemed like we had one more that was about live video. I may have missed it. Yeah. Are you currently using live video tools like Facebook or Periscope? Anybody? The live video pieces, which I think it's kind of intimidating. And I've done it on Facebook, but I find it a little bit intimidating to do. So very few. There's a few. Good. So some of you that are, maybe describe your experience a little bit over in the chat. Let us know. Did you find it intimidating? Were you scared when you did it? How did you learn to do it? Did you just dive in, or did you have a class or a webinar or something that you did that would help you learn? Facebook Live, as you know, you run it off of your smartphone, and if you will put live video up, it ranks higher in their algorithm. So you'll get more action on your page, more engagement on your page if you actually do live video versus the recorded. You get a little more action because they give it a higher priority. So I was thinking you could do it at live events, you can do it at things that are going on in the community, just to celebrate community. And it's an easy thing to do if you are interested in doing it. And for those of you who've done it, tell us a little bit about it. Was it scary, or did you just find your courage and dive in and do it? So talk to me in the chat about how you did that. Periscope was kind of blended in there. I find the difference is on Facebook it stays. Facebook Live, if you do a live Facebook video, you leave it on Facebook, it'll come up for a day or two in there. You'll see it. It lasts. It stays on your page. You have a collection of live videos. Periscope's a little bit different because they only last about 24 hours unless you download them and keep them for your own use in terms of creating live video. But it hit like a firestorm when Periscope hit. And of course, Facebook didn't want the competition, so they started doing Facebook Live. So you have some of that competition out there for using video. So what if you don't know much about using these things and you need some training? This is not a kind of training that we would normally do in our field because we do a lot of content training around specifics to the work of prevention. So I'm going to give you 4 and then we'll be done, and I will stay and we can do some coaching or some assistance if you need it, but I will go ahead and give you the last of these. First is lynda.com, and I think I may have that. Let me check real quick. I believe I do. Yes, I do. So let me share my screen. I can show you what it looks like. I don't know. Does anybody use lynda.com? Would somebody in the group, if you use it, would you pop over to the chat and tell us that you use it so we can see? It is a really handy little place to be. I have had a subscription there for a very long time. Love lynda.com. Great tool. You can learn just about anything here, but they have a lot of trainings around video, various aspects of video. You can see on the screen we have video editing, motion art, motion graphics. We have a number of things, and you can just search on it and it will tell you what's available. So lynda.com. There is a cost to it. It's $25 a month, $24.99 a month, and I find it well worth it. The $25 is just well worth it because I can learn so much, and I can spend a little bit of time every week learning something that I'm trying to master. And so I would highly recommend it. It's good training and lots of topics. Another one, if you're interested in a smartphone particularly, is iPhone Video Hero, or iVideo Hero. This is a guy out of the UK who used to work with the BBC. He was a producer and a cameraman for the BBC, and he has opened his own little shop because he saw the need in the field for people to be able to use their smartphone to do video, and he wanted to help them do good video. So he came up with this. I've been following him now for several years, and I subscribe to his work. And I have learned so much really good, interesting stuff from him. He's laid back. He's not formal, so you don't feel like you're in a really big-time formal training. He's very relaxed, and he speaks straightforward to you, and really good guy. It's $9.95 a month. There's a little bit of like a dime, 9 cents, something like that, is a fee, because that's in the UK. It's in pounds, not dollars, and so you have that little fee to pay to get it up. So it's about $10, and you have a chance to learn from this guy. You also can just go to the website and download their iPhone video marketing missing manual, he calls it, and you can get that if you're interested in pursuing that. Next is a woman. Her name is Kim Garst. You've probably seen her on Facebook. She's everywhere. She has Boom Social, and she does a lot of really good social media work in terms of visuals. She has a webinar on Facebook Live. If you want to learn to use Facebook Live, her work is really good. She's very thorough. She gives you good materials, and she's a good teacher. So I think if you're interested at all in Facebook Live, look up Kim Garst. I think there's a link in your handout as well, but she's easy to find. Just put Boom Social or her name, Kim Garst, in your search engine, and she will help you learn to do that. She's very good at what she does. Then we have Creative Live. This is a great site. The classes are a little more than Linda, but not too much more. And you can learn almost anything here with the craft of video or imagery or any number of other things, actually. It's called Creative Live. Lots of things. And if you really want to go a little bit deeper, and this is the part I really love. I have not gotten to take a course from these folks. I would love to. It is basically teaching us how to tell digital stories. And they have workshops, they have some webinars, and they certainly do partnering to teach how to tell stories. So I would highly recommend them as well. And I think our time is probably up. Let me stop the share. We'll come back. All the tools we've looked at today will help you create and post to social media. Posts that will engage people, get their, visually, it'll engage them cognitively, it'll get them going with that. And so you probably noticed that platforms like Facebook and others are integrating video, and they're rewarding their visual posts with more visibility. So you get a lot more for your buck when you're using visual communications. Ultimately, what you want to do is increase your followers, your supporters, and you want to engage with them online. So I'm not a fan of driving yourself nuts posting all over the place. I'm kind of a fan of having 1 to 3 places and then leveraging those in terms of your posts. So I love Buffer because it helps me do that. And I think, in the past when we felt like we had to be in all these social media places and posting all over the place, and it got to be a really heavy-duty job. And now if you just post once or twice a day, you'll get plenty of action, and you'll stay in front of people, because it's not the glut of information that you want to share. It is that consistent presence, sharing your message, that really counts, and that's the crux of it. Prevention isn't like business, and so a lot of what you find online is business oriented, and you'll have to do the translation, but in that translation you'll learn a lot, and it's really helpful to be able to do that. Let me just stop for a minute. Let's look at I think we're right, it's at 3:05, so we're right at the edge. Any questions in the Q&A, Amanda, or I'll look at the chat real quick.
There's nothing in the Q&A. It looks like Allison Wall has her hand raised.
Oh, Allison.
Oh, no, it's gone.
Oh.
So maybe that was an accident. But
yeah.
If you do, feel free to put something in the chat.
Please do. Yeah, questions, comments, your thoughts, your experience. If you can describe that just briefly in the chat, that's awesome. I'm curious how many of you have an intention to try some of these. You might tell me in the chat what you would like to try your hand at. Where do you feel compelled to take some kind of action to try some of these tools? Something maybe you haven't tried before, or tried in a different way. So I would love it. I'll wait and I'll listen for the chat just for a minute or two, and then we'll close out. So we have Carol, Jordan, Amanda, Lindsay, Julie, Jody. You guys have been so good. Thank you for commenting today. I appreciate that. Makes it go a little better, and I know you're there, and that makes it feel better. It's hard to see because we can't see you. Yeah. Use less words and better images from the sites. Yeah, Julie, those are really good sites, and they don't cost. I've spent a lot of money building my library, and I love the fact that I don't have to do that anymore. These are really wonderful sites. Yeah. Carol says Buffer, Color Splash, Canva, and PicStitch. Boy, you're talking my talk, Carol. I love those. Those are really good tools. And Jody says Canva looks interesting. It is interesting. It takes a little bit to get used to it, but not long. And Canva, if you'll look over in the left-hand navigation toward the bottom, they will teach you how to use Canva. There's little course tidbits that will tell you a little bit more, tutorials, so to speak, that will tell you how to use it. So you don't have to learn it blind, going in and trying to figure out what goes where and stuff. You can actually take a little tutorial if that's your learning style. A lot of folks I just dove in and started playing with it until I figured it out. And I really have enjoyed it. Cheyenne says, I'm hoping that if I schedule more instead of randomly posting, that my posts will be more productive, and they'll be, that consistency helps. That really does, Cheyenne. I think that helps a lot to be able to be consistent. And that scheduler helps you do that, because you just schedule the time, go in and do that, and the creative work is there. So you either create or you curate, one of the two, and can do either, and schedule them that way. You can even schedule the curated content, not your own content, but the stuff that you find, you can even schedule those. So it's a wonderful tool. Any parting questions? If not, we will call it a wrap. I'll hand it back to Amanda. Thank you all for being here and giving me a chance to talk about and share some of this stuff. And I would love to hear from you at some point. I know Amanda has my email, and I'd be glad to give you some support if you need it. So Amanda, back to you.
Thank you so much, LaDonna. There were so many great tools today. So I'm looking forward to using, I'm getting more used to Canva myself now, and so looking forward to using that more too. And thank you everyone for attending. I just want to put a reminder out there that on April 25th, we'll have a social math webinar. It's called Making Data Make Sense, Using Social Math to Communicate Your Message. And that will be a webinar at 1:30 p.m. on April 25th. And if you're not registered and want to be, reach out to me and I'll get you in on that as well. So thank you so much, LaDonna, and thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Yep. Bye.